Hello everybody, girls and boys, mums and dads possibly, grandmas and granddads. As we're going through such funny times at the moment and so many of you children and adults are off school and off work, I thought maybe it was a good time to read you some of the book that I wrote a while ago. A lot of you know me anyway from being a teacher and from coming around schools with my book. But for those who don't know me, this is my book. It's called All Change, and it's quite a funny story, and it's appropriate for ages from about 6 to 11. So I thought I'd just start with the first chapter. And the whole book is called All Change. The first chapter is called Swimming Again. Mrs. Peacock said to bring our swimming stuff tomorrow, Ben said to his mum at tea time. It was odd. They never went swimming on Fridays. Tomorrow? Ben's mum stopped wiping pasta sauce from baby Ella's face and turned to face Ben. Tomorrow's Friday. I know it's Friday, he replied, raising his fork carefully to his mouth and giving his mum an exasperated look. Just as we were putting our chairs up, she shouted out, Don't forget your swimming things tomorrow. I know that's what she said because Jake asked why. Just a bit strange, that's all, said Ben's mum. Swimming's always been on Wednesdays. You've been this week. Ben's mum pulled the pasta-stained bib over Ella's head in one practice move. What did she say to Jake? She told Jake off for shouting out, said Ben. He watched as sauce dripped from his fork onto the table. Then she just said, we'd have to wait and see. We'll find out tomorrow. Ben's mum sighed. She's nutty as a fruitcake, she muttered as she lifted a wriggling Ella from her high chair. Ben frowned. He thought Mrs. Peacock was brilliant. She let them eat their fruit on the playground, not inside like other classes. She didn't bother too much if they couldn't line up in alphabetical order, even after 2 terms. And she let them go out early for lunch if they weren't silly at milk time. Admittedly, that wasn't very often. Best of all, she told the most fantastic stories, all about magic conkers that granted wishes and carrots with legs that could run across the playground. And the puppets in Mrs. Peacock's classroom came to life at night. Ben knew that because Mrs. Peacock showed them the banana skins as sweet wrappers left on the floor. Just lately, though, she did shout rather a lot, and her face was nearly always bright red, even before school started these days, and her hair was beginning to look a bit like the hair on that doll of Ella's, all matted and sticking up in funny places. Anyway, none of that really mattered to Ben. The stories were much more important. Got your trunks? Asked Jake excitedly as he answered the door to Ben the following morning. Yeah, Ben grinned, feeling the weight of the rolled towel in his backpack, and gave a secret shiver of anticipation. Hey, I wonder what time we'll go. Jake looked eagerly across at Ben, awaiting an answer. Ben knew everything. Ben knew the names of all the planets. In order. Ben knew his 5 times table, even 9 fives. Ben knew that you never started a sentence with and. And Ben knew that mustard and cress needed water and light. Jake had confidently just said water, and then watched worriedly as Mrs. Peacock put his damp, seedy flannel into the dark art cupboard. He'd been so disappointed when Mrs. Peacock had produced the brown, shrivelled stems from the cupboard a few days later. Although she had seemed delighted. She said it proved a hypothesis, whatever that might mean. He'd forgotten to ask Ben later. We might miss circle time, said Ben excitedly. Up until last week, he'd always liked circle time. You got to talk about your feelings and everybody had to listen. Nobody was allowed to laugh, whatever you said. You had to wait to speak, and it was only your turn when you were past the wooden cow that Mrs. Peacock's daughter had brought her back from Yarmouth one holiday. Those were the rules. Ben liked rules. You knew where you were with them. That's what his mum said. Mrs. Peacock said it was a pity that there was always somebody who had to break the rules and spoil it. And that's what had happened last week. Joe Rimmer had broken the rules and spoiled it. Just as Ben had been telling everyone in a very serious voice how it made him feel when his baby sister was born, and Mrs. Peacock was looking at him with her head on one side, nodding in a kindly sort of way. Joe Rimmer had shouted out something about babies pooing nappies, and everybody had burst out laughing, so loud that Ben's serious voice could no longer be heard. Ben had felt like crying. It made him feel slightly better to see Joe sitting on the naughty chair and Mrs. Peacock leaning across him, prodding at the air with her finger as everyone else went out to play. But he knew Joe wouldn't care. Ben hated circle time now. It reminded him of the day that Joe Rimmer broke the rules and spoiled it for him. Oh yeah, that would be good. Swimming instead of circle time. Jake laughed. He'd always hated circle time. He never knew what to say when he found himself holding the wooden cow, warm and sticky from the fingers of the other children. It's funny going twice in 1 week, though, Ben was saying to the group of boys leaning against the wall in the playground. There was a large, untidy pile of bags by their feet. Towels and goggles spilled onto the ground and into nearby puddles. She did say it was the only time we were quiet, said Matty, scuffing his shoe against the wall, when we were in the pool. Still don't know why we're going again, though. Well, shouted Jake as Matty's voice was drowned out by the sound of a loud whistle, won't be long before we find out. And that was chapter 1. So if you want to hear more, I will be recording all the chapters in the book over the next few days. You'll be able to watch it. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you next time.